The general rule of thumb for life is that you should do what other people have done forever unless you have a really good reason not to. Don't deviate from the straight and narrow path. Like, you are already deviating in all sorts of ways. You're very entrepreneurial, right? So your life has a variety of adventurous pathways. You're going to want to put firm foundation wherever you can. That'll actually free you up to do more adventurous things. Children are a multi-generational commitment because it's children and grandchildren. And so the marriage is a signifier of that. And in order to stay with someone optimally over the longest period of time possible, it has to be serious. And for something to be serious, you have to throw everything at it. You know, and you might say, well, love is enough. It's like, that's a very naive view of the world, because there'll be times, because that's kind of like saying, well, as long as we love each other and we're happy, we'll be together. It's like, well, if you're talking 40 years, there's going to be plenty of years in there where you're not happy and you probably don't love each other. So what then? You're going to just, is it just going to dissolve? Or are you going to say, we're in this, you know, come hell or high water, which is the vow. Come hell or high, and hell and high water, they're coming. And then you got to ask yourself, you know, is this the person you want in the boat with you when hell and high water come? And that's not going to be fun. That's for sure. You want to do it alone? Or you think that when everything falls apart around you, you're going to be in a better position to find someone better? I don't think so. It's a long, and then, you know, you take the marital vow in a religious sense and you do it in front of a community, right? So it signifies commitment, and you need that because, like, you think you can maintain all that commitment on your own? Maybe you can. I doubt it. Generally, people can't, like no one. We need to fortify ourselves in all sorts of ways to get through the things in life that are most difficult.
But the traditional marriage agreement, one that's a legal agreement, does it need to be, can I not take my partner, have a wedding in front of our friends and family, sign a contract, maybe even do it in a sort of religious context without having it to be like a legal document that the government are involved in?
Well, you could, but...
Is it not the same bond to you?
You're talking about a multitude of different bonds, right? Fundamentally, right? The one that you're prioritizing is the bond that's voluntary and predicated on what? The love of the moment? I mean, we want to be precise here, right? So I think that's a reasonable way of conceptualizing it. And it is a romantic view that should prevail. And it's a romantic view that should be sufficient. I don't think it's often the case that it doesn't prevail, and it's generally the case that it's not sufficient. And so then you might say, well, maybe you want to add a legal element to that, and you want to add a metaphysical element to it, because those are all fortifications. And they're indications even to yourself that you're serious. It's not like we understand ourselves. You know, like, people are just as mysterious to themselves as someone else is mysterious to them. You ask yourself, it's like, okay, well, what do I have to put in place to ensure that I'm doing the right thing? Well, when you're embarking on something difficult, like marriage, then you better have everything necessary in place.
If you and Tammy hadn't got married, and you were just in a relationship like I am with my partner, how do you think your life would be different? And do you think
I don't think it would have lasted.
You don't think your life would have lasted?
Oh, well, no, that's undoubtedly true. I mean, both of us just about died in the last 5 years. And I don't mean by a little bit. I mean, like, it was touch and go for a long time. So it was a good thing everything was in place through that. I mean, the waters were pretty high for the last 3 years, 4 years. Socially, professionally, physically. What are you wrestling with exactly, like, in this issue? You know, I mean, it seems like you're trying to sort out the relationship between the emotional attachment and the personal attachment and the social structures that, say, surround marriage.
It's complicated, because even any answer I might give you is, if you go down that spiral, you might find something at the bottom of it. That's not what I'm saying. So what I mean by that is,
definitely.
Just as you asked that question, I just got a glimpse of, I just had a bit of a flash to, like, my issues with commitment and how I watched.
Okay, so what, you had a little fantasy?
No, I just remember recalling feeling like my dad was in prison when he was in his relationship. So I think that's still
okay. So now I can tell you what to do with that. So you bring those images to mind, right? So you've got this question in mind. You just found out something. You said that there's something at the bottom of this. Okay, now if you watch your fantasies, they'll shed light on this descent into the abyss, so to speak. Now, you had a flash of memory. Okay, that memory is associated with all sorts of things. And you can bring that to mind and let it play itself out, right? And it'll explore the contours of the problem that now you put your finger on a very important problem. You said that you saw in your father someone who's trapped in his marriage.
Yeah.
Well, it's no bloody wonder you're leery of that, right? So now the question would be, what was the nature of that entrapment? What evidence did you have that that was in fact the case? How much of that was him? How much of that was her? And what is it that they did wrong and right? You need to know all of that, and you need to know how it affected you. That's a great observation. See, that's so cool, because that very frequently happens to people when they ask a question. That's like a revelation. So you ask a question. That's like a prayer. The question is there something at the bottom of the trouble I'm having conceptualizing marriage? Okay, now you want to know. That's the first precondition. Okay, then you'll get memories, images like that. And then people shy away. It's like, I don't want to go there. It's like, yeah, that's for sure. You bloody well don't want to go there. But you do, because if it's there, you will go there, right? It'll plague you. It'll plague your life. It'll show its head continually in your relationship. Or you can get to the bottom of it, which is people will fight their whole life with their partner to avoid getting to the bottom of something. That's how terrifying it is to get to the bottom of something, right? But if you do get to the bottom of it, then you don't have to fight for 30 years. So that's very much worthwhile. And it'll lighten you as well. You know, because you have a real issue. It's like, how can marriage not be a trap?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. Definitely. That's a very good question. And an important one. How can marriage be a trap? How can not being married be a trap? How can being alone be a trap? How can being deluded about what holds people together be a trap? There's traps everywhere, man. There's traps everywhere. And so there's no risk-free pathway forward. There's just risk everywhere. Okay, so that's a really useful thing to know. Then the question would shift to something like, well, if I wanted to construct a relationship that was optimized, that's what you have to ask yourself. It's like, and your partner, it's like, what are we doing here? What do we want? Tammy and I decided, for example, when we first got married, I mentioned this to her right away when we decided that we were going to take things seriously. It was like, we're going to tell each other the truth. So that was part of the vision. Like, no matter what.
No matter what.
Yeah, no matter what. She's been very good at that. I would say better than me. I've been good at it, but she's been really quite remarkably good at it. She really threw herself into it. And I mean, that causes a complete transformation, but there's plenty of skeletons in the closet to be revealed. God, that's for sure.